And so we just depend on the love of the Lord and the love of you. Pray about it and be obedient. He is Mr. Mike Semko, and he is with a ministry called A Lighthouse. And welcome to the program, Mike.
Thank you very much, Pat.
Tell me a little bit about Mike Semko.
Well, I live in Lansdale with my beautiful wife, Laura, and 3 sons, Adam, 4, Jared, 2, and Nathaniel, 1.
Well, that's a handful for your wife.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But it's great. And
good.
It's good to be a dad and a husband. And I'm also a graduate of Philadelphia Biblical University. I graduated with a degree in youth ministry. And I also spent 4 years at a program called Today Incorporated. It's an adolescent rehab in Newtown, PA, as a crisis interventionist working with families struggling with a child that's having problems with drugs or alcohol, substance abuse, behavioral issues.
It's a wonderful field to be in because, unfortunately, it's sad to say, we do need people in that field today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you're now with A Lighthouse. It's called A Lighthouse with Healthcare Solutions. What is this?
Well, it's a ministry that provides Christian crisis services to individuals and families that are struggling with life-controlling behaviors, addictions. It could be substance abuse, eating disorders, mood, anxiety, and stress disorders, gambling, sexual addictions, any life-controlling behavior that can make life unmanageable. And what we provide is a toll-free crisis hotline where someone can access a vast network of resources to meet their need, whatever it may be. It could be a Christian 12-step support group. It could be a counselor, an outpatient program, or an extended care rehabilitation program. The counselor who answers the phone will ask questions, assess the need, and make some recommendations, and also provide intervention when necessary, and also educational services.
That's great. Well, you really cover the whole gamut of all the problems that anyone could have for an individual or a family.
Yes.
Why, unfortunately there is, but why do you feel there's such a need for an organization like this?
Well, I'll give you an example, personal example.
Okay.
When I was the youth pastor, when we first started the church about 4 years ago, I had an incident arise where a student, a young man, came to me and told me that he struggled with substance abuse, with drugs and alcohol, and also started to get into a lot of the abuse that took place in his own life with his father. And I was completely dumbfounded. I had no idea what to do or how to help him. And what I realized pretty quickly is that I wasn't alone in feeling that way. There are so many people in the church that are struggling with deep-seated, deep-rooted issues that require a great deal of attention and specific type of assistance. And I had no idea what to do. And so what happens with these problems many times, because they're so shame-based, people are in denial, or they think they can handle it on their own, or the code of silence kind of develops around the family to try to, we kind of use the illustration. It's like there's an elephant in the living room, and everyone is walking around it and pretending it's not there. And in some cases, they actually get comfortable with the elephant being there. But the reality is that elephant grows bigger and bigger, and eventually it's going to destroy, the house. And so breaking that code of silence is the key. And sometimes the church is the last place people will go for help because of the shame associated. They don't want to be looked at as a bad Christian or whatever. Our organization specifically wants to come alongside the church, come alongside the pastor and the leadership to be a resource where people can reach out in the privacy of their home on Saturday night. They can go on the web or just contact us on the hotline and be able to get their needs met. We also help churches start up Christian 12-step support groups. Pastors are so inundated with the workload they already have. One situation like this can take hour upon hour of energy, and it requires a specific knowledge of resources and places to go and insurance and employment difficulties, and we just want to be a resource for the church.
It's true, because the pastors are overwhelmed, and that would just be one person, and there could be dozens in that one congregation that might need specialized help. Well, what can one man do, really?
Exactly.
And especially his job is to feed the sheep as well, and stay spiritually alert for his congregation.
That's right.
So now, how did Lighthouse get started? How did the whole ministry get started then?
Well, I have a friend who for the past 12 years has been working in the secular field as an employee assistance counselor, working with unions and businesses and schools. And what he was able to do is if someone, an employee, say a member from a union, was exhibiting symptoms on the job, say of depression or anxiety, or they were showing up intoxicated, or maybe chronic absenteeism, immediately management desires to deal with that in a disciplinary fashion.
Sure.
Well, what he was able to do is come alongside the member or the union and be a resource to get that person the medical attention that they need to go out under doctor's care, receive therapy if it's outpatient, or to go into a residential program to meet their needs so that they could return to the job fit for duty. And there may be a gentleman who 30 years of service in the union, done a great job, maybe 20 years ago struggled with alcoholism, but was able to have a victory and recovery for 20 years. But maybe something happens in his life, a divorce or a death in the family, where life starts to spiral out of control again and he picks up again. And should the family and all that he had done for 30 years be completely lost because of this? We say, no, extend grace, give them an opportunity,
That's right.
not enable them, but give them an opportunity to get the help that's really going to work. And we see people go away for 30, 60 days to a residential program that meets their needs in group therapy for anger management, coping skills, depression, under a psychiatrist's care, where they can return to work fit for duty, no restrictions. So
praise the Lord.
Now, the reason this ministry got started was he was doing that in the secular field and realized that the church had no resources like this. So he had a heart as a believer to bring this employee assistance service to the church. And so he's been developing a network over the past 10 years of multiple Christian organizations that are meeting needs and just kind of connecting the pieces, connecting the dots, taking calls and being able to refer people on to places that are going to help. And more specifically, over the past few years, myself, when I had that incident with the young man in the youth group, I got to meet this gentleman and he was able to help me. I got a real passion for this area of ministry, and also ended up, the Lord moved me into the secular field working as a crisis interventionist. I learned some skills. God's just kind of put the pieces together. Recently in December, we became an official LLC and an organization in December. But this network's been building for 10 years now.
That's great. But it's much more now than an employee relationship. It's, you know, you have it Christ-centered as well, because you talked about how it started, but you've taken it even further because it is a ministry now.
Absolutely. The main focus of this ministry now is to come alongside churches and large national Christian organizations even. We receive calls and work with places like America's Keswick, Teen Challenge, Focus on the Family, the New Jersey District Council of the Assemblies of God, Remuda Ranch out in the West Coast. These places, we work with them, we send referrals to them, and there's also situations that they can't handle that aren't appropriate for them, that maybe someone needs a medical detox for heroin or alcohol, or maybe they have a dual diagnosis. They have a mental health issue and a drug and alcohol issue that requires medications. Those type of calls can be referred to us as a single point contact. So I'm literally getting calls from all over the country. I've had calls from Alaska, California, Colorado, Arizona, just off the top of my head. So there's such a need for this. It doesn't really exist anywhere else. It's kind of a new idea, and there's such a need that we're being inundated. As soon as people find out about it and realize what it is, they call it. So.
Now, we've had your website on under your name and different things so people can get in contact with you, but where exactly are you located in case someone wants to know that they can have that information?
We have an office in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
right off of 611 Northeastern Road.
And so they can call the phone numbers that we have on the screen right now or the website, and you can give them any information that they might want to have, and you can take it, you know, from there.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Who can access your service? And maybe you can't answer all of this right now, but maybe we'll get part of it in.
Well, the nice thing about the service is it's pretty much anyone, anywhere. Anybody that has a vested interest in helping the individual that's struggling or the family. I receive calls from pastors, counselors, psychologists, doctors, anyone that has a vested interest in helping in the situation and just wants to find out. So they may call and just start asking some questions, get some education, and then I can just tell them, have that person call me. Or we try to find one person in the family system that's motivated toward change, and work with them.
I see.
And so any way that we can access that. So anyone can feel free to call.
So it could be a pastor, an individual, or a ministry. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter who calls us.
Okay.